Void Mage Gamer is now partnered with Flipside Gaming, so you can use the promo code on their website, all caps, Void Mage, to get 10% off all orders $10 or more. It's a great way that you can support both Flipside Gaming and Void Mage Gamer's channel. Hey guys, welcome back to another Commander deck tech video. This time we're going to take advantage of one of the newer Commander options coming out here in Ravnica Allegiance, Teysa Karlov, the newest version of Teysa. Out of the previous versions, this one is more like the original, where you have more interaction, you have death triggers, whereas with Teysa Envoy of Ghosts, she was more expensive, and she was really just more of a defensive card in my opinion. I think if you build a deck around death triggers, tokens, you're going to have a deck that is a little bit more like the original. But with Teysa Karlov, the emphasis is a little bit more on the death triggers, whereas with the Orzhov Scion, you were able to exile creatures by sacrificing 3 white creatures. In my opinion, I still am going to side with that removal. I think it's so important in the format, and you still had combo potential, you still had some power in that deck as well. But with Teysa Karlov, you can just play Aristocrats here though, and Aristocrats pretty much just trigger whenever something dies. It could be something that's on the field and something else dies, or it could be the card itself that dies and triggers. That's basically the idea behind an Aristocrat deck. You just want to fill your deck with creatures that do stuff when they die, even if it's something as simple as a Doomed Traveler. Dying gets you a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. If this dies with Teysa out on the field, you're going to get 2 of those, one of the weaker death triggers in the deck. But considering we're also going to be playing something like Skull Clamp, I wouldn't be too quick to knock it. There's going to be so many interactions in the deck where you can get multiple death triggers at the same time. You could get a Skull Clamp trigger as well as a Doomed Traveler trigger. All of those on the stack, you can get a ton of value, and with a Skull Clamp, you do actually have the potential to just draw a ton of cards from your deck. And a lot of that is just going to come from being able to generate a ton of mana off of things like Pawn of Ulamog, going to get double triggers with Teysa, Pitiless Plunderer, Sifter of Skulls. These are all about just getting you a ton of mana for your death triggers. And we have a ton of recursion in the deck as well, and an interaction that I think is going to be hilarious, Aetherios God of Passage. While it doesn't straight up guarantee that you get the creature back, this is going to make it to where they have to pay 6 life, which most of your opponents are probably not going to do that. We of course have Dutiful Attendant, which is a cheaper option, also a death trigger though. We have Karmic Guide, Phyrexian Delver. We have other options of getting creatures back from our graveyard to the battlefield, which is so important in a deck that is focused around death. But a card that would actually synergize with this deck in terms of having a death trigger is Revilark, and it does actually trigger by dying too. So while its trigger is literally leaves the battlefield, if dying is how it leaves the battlefield, then it will trigger, and then you'll get those creatures power 2 or less. You'll get 4 of them, and you just have a ton of ways to reset your board, get even more value. And we have a ton of cool triggers involving card draw, in addition to the Skull Clamp, where we can just draw a whole bunch. We also have some pretty good staples like Grim Haruspex, Harvester of Souls. We also have the newer Midnight Reaper and Dark Prophecy. Even at the cost of life, drawing cards is still fantastic, and you want to make sure you play as many of these as you can, because the deck is all about value. Both Yosei the Morning Star and Kokosho the Evening Star have some of the strongest death triggers of any creatures in the format, so you should probably consider playing them. But if you're looking for even more to punish your opponents in terms of Kokosho's life loss, you of course have cards like Blood Artist, Zulaport Cutthroat, Falcon Wrath Noble, and what is probably going to be the most punishing card in this entire deck, Massacre Worm. Teysa does recognize all creatures dying, so even if you have a card that triggers when an opponent's creature dies, it still recognizes that, and you get double the triggers. So they're going to lose 4 life instead of just 2 for each creature they have that dies, making Massacre Worm pretty much a win con. Now, a pretty cool sub-theme to the deck is going to be creature tokens. Like I mentioned with Doomed Traveler, you get more value out of that. A little disappointed in the Afterlife mechanic that we didn't really get anything strong for Commander, but we do have something pretty decent in Tithe Taker. While it isn't a grand abolisher, it could potentially be that in certain situations. The Afterlife is also there, so if it dies, you can get 2 of those spirit tokens. It does help that the creature is a cheap 2 mana. Seraph of the Scales is a decent option for the deck. I think it's a good value creature with decent keywords. It does die and get you 2 of those tokens, potentially 4 with Teysa out at the same time. But considering that it might be a good standard card, you're probably better off just passing on this. We do, however, have Olinda the Dusk Rose, a card with a ton of value in death triggers. Whenever a creature dies, you get a +1/+1 counter on her, and whenever she dies. With Teysa out there, you're going to get twice that many vampire tokens with a lifelink. So if you want to focus on creature tokens, you have that available. But we also have things like Hollowed Spirit Keeper, Ogre Slumlord that can create rats with Death Touch. So you have rats that have 3 good keywords with Teysa out there at the same time. Ragna the Redeemer is a pretty good option if you play her friend Crab. And Requiem Angel is also pretty nice. Get us even more spirit tokens. As always though, if you want to see the full deck list, the link to it will be in the description box below. We have other interesting cards in the deck, such as Divine Visitation, which can be pretty powerful, Revel in Riches, which is a possible win con, and we do have even more creatures like Ashen Rider that are just so valuable with awesome death triggers, get you that utility. But anyway, hope you guys enjoy Teysa Karlov, probably my favorite commander option from this whole set. You guys have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you all next video.